She thought she was alone. She thought she was safe. She thought the door was locked. Deborah, 23 years old, had finally found a moment of peace in a house that felt like chaos. Her day had been exhausting. Classes, work, family obligations, everything pulling her in different directions. And now, late at night, she just wanted to breathe. She wanted to feel something other than stress. So she did what so many people do when they need to reconnect with themselves. She gave herself permission to be vulnerable. In her own room, in her own space. She lay on her bed, dimmed the lights, and let her mind drift away from the noise of the world. Her breathing slowed. Her body relaxed. She let herself feel warmth, softness, a quiet comfort that belonged only to her. This was her private moment, her sacred moment, a moment where she could explore her own body without judgment, without shame, without fear. She felt safe. She felt protected. She felt free. Her eyes closed as she sank deeper into the stillness, completely unaware that 3 men she had trusted her entire life were standing outside her door, whispering, planning, waiting. She didn't hear their footsteps. She didn't hear the doorknob turn. She didn't know that in just a few seconds, her entire world would shatter. If stories like this raise awareness for you, please like the video so the algorithm shows it to more people who need to hear it. Deborah wasn't the kind of person who stood out in a crowd. She was quiet, thoughtful, the type of young woman who preferred books over parties, art over arguments. She had dreams, of course, big ones. She wanted to finish college. She wanted to become a graphic designer. She wanted to move to the city one day and start fresh, build something that was entirely hers. But right now, she lived at home, in a large family compound where aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents all shared the same space. It was crowded, loud, sometimes suffocating. Privacy was a luxury she rarely had. Her room was her only sanctuary, the one place where she could close the door and just exist. She decorated it with sketches she had drawn, strings of fairy lights, and a small bookshelf packed with novels she had read over and over again. It was modest, but it was hers. And after long days of navigating classes, deadlines, and the constant noise of family life, she needed that space more than anything. Deborah was close with some of her relatives. She loved her grandmother. She adored her younger cousins. But there were others in the house who made her feel uneasy. Not in obvious ways, just small things. The way they looked at her sometimes. The way they lingered too long in doorways. The way certain conversations felt too personal, too invasive. She brushed it off, told herself she was overthinking. These were family members, people she had known since childhood, people who were supposed to protect her. She trusted them because she had no reason not to. The compound was old, a sprawling 2-story structure that had been in the family for generations. It had separate wings, a shared courtyard, and rooms that seemed to multiply the longer you lived there. At any given time, there could be 15 people under that roof. Deborah's mother lived there, her grandmother, her younger siblings. And then there were the 3 men, Allison, Benjamin, Josh. Allison was the oldest, 42 years old, respected by the family, seen as the responsible one. He had a steady job, kept to himself, and rarely caused trouble. Everyone thought of him as reliable, trustworthy, the kind of man you could count on in a crisis. Benjamin was 38, more social than Allison. He was the one who organized family gatherings, told jokes at the dinner table, and always seemed to know everyone's business. People liked him. He was charming, friendly, the type of person who made you feel comfortable, maybe too comfortable. Josh was the youngest of the 3, at 34. He was the jokester, always laughing, always teasing, always trying to get a reaction out of someone. Deborah had grown up with him around. He used to ruffle her hair when she was little, call her kiddo, and act like the fun uncle who didn't take life too seriously. But lately, his jokes felt different, more pointed, more uncomfortable. He would comment on her appearance, make remarks about what she was wearing, laugh a little too hard when she walked by. She tried to ignore it, tried to tell herself it was harmless, but deep down, something felt wrong. Still, these were her uncles, men who had been part of her life since she was born, men who had sat at the same dinner table, celebrated the same holidays, shared the same home. She never imagined they could hurt her. She never imagined they could be capable of what they were about to do. Deborah cherished her alone time, not because she was antisocial, but because it was the only time she felt like herself. The only time she didn't have to perform, didn't have to smile when she didn't want to, didn't have to pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. That particular evening had been brutal. She had stayed late at the library working on a project that was due the next morning. Her professor had been harsh during critiques, tearing apart weeks of work in front of the entire class. She came home exhausted, emotionally drained, physically worn out. Her mother was in the kitchen arguing with someone on the phone. Her younger brother was blasting music in the next room. The noise felt like it was pressing against her skull. She needed silence. She needed peace. She needed release. So she went to her room, closed the door, and locked it. At least she thought she locked it. She changed into comfortable clothes, turned off the overhead light, let the soft glow of her fairy lights fill the space. She lay on her bed and took a deep breath. For the first time all day, she felt her shoulders relax. She let her mind wander, let her hands explore her own body in a way that felt natural, gentle, comforting. This wasn't about anyone else. It wasn't about pleasure in the way people might assume. It was about reclaiming something, about feeling connected to herself in a world that constantly demanded pieces of her. She closed her eyes and let herself drift. She felt safe, she felt protected, she felt alone. But she wasn't. Outside, the three men had gathered. It wasn't planned, or maybe it was. Maybe they had been watching, waiting, looking for an opportunity. Allison had been standing in the hallway when Benjamin walked past. They exchanged a look, a nod. Then Josh appeared from the other end of the corridor, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning the hallway like he was checking to see if anyone else was around. "Is anyone home?" Benjamin asked quietly. Allison shook his head. "Grandmother's asleep. Everyone else is out." Josh smirked. "She's in her room." There was a pause, a heavy, uncomfortable silence that seemed to stretch for too long. Then Allison moved, slow, deliberate. The other two followed. They didn't say anything, they didn't need to. Their movements were coordinated, practiced, like they had thought about this before, like they had imagined it. They stopped outside Deborah's door, listened, heard the faint rustle of movement inside. Benjamin reached for the doorknob, tested it. It turned. She hadn't locked it after all. Or maybe they had a key. Either way, the door opened, and they stepped inside. Deborah's eyes shot open. At first, she didn't understand what she was seeing. Three figures standing in her doorway, silhouettes against the dim light from the hallway. Her heart stopped, her breath caught in her throat. She scrambled to cover herself, pulling the blanket up, confusion flooding her mind. What are you doing?" Her voice was shaky, small. They didn't answer. They just stared. And in that moment, she saw something in their eyes she had never seen before. Something cold, something hungry, something that made her stomach twist with fear. "Get out," she said louder this time. "Get out." Allison stepped forward. "Relax." Benjamin closed the door behind them. Josh locked it. The sound of the lock clicking into place was the most terrifying sound she had ever heard. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She tried to get up, tried to move toward the window, toward the door, toward anywhere that wasn't this room. But Benjamin grabbed her arm, pulled her back. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he said. His voice was calm, too calm, like this was normal, like this was okay. It wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. She tried to scream. Josh covered her mouth. Shh, you don't want to wake anyone up, do you? Tears streamed down her face. Her body was shaking. She felt like she was going to be sick. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not with them, not with people she trusted. But it was happening, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. When they finally left, the room was silent. Deborah sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. She couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Her body felt foreign, like it didn't belong to her anymore, like they had taken something from her that she could never get back. She heard footsteps in the hallway, voices, normal, everyday sounds, like nothing had happened, like the world hadn't just ended. She forced herself to stand. Her legs were shaking so badly she had to hold on to the wall for support. She stumbled to the bathroom, locked the door, and collapsed against it. She turned on the faucet, let the water run, splashed her face over and over again, trying to wash away the feeling of their hands, their eyes, their presence. But no amount of water could erase what they had done. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection stared back at her, hollow and broken. She didn't recognize the person she saw. This wasn't her. This couldn't be her. But it was, and she didn't know how to live with that. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The next morning, Allison, Benjamin, and Josh acted like nothing had happened. They sat at the breakfast table, drank their coffee, made small talk. When Deborah's mother asked where Deborah was, Benjamin shrugged. Probably still sleeping. She seemed tired last night. Allison nodded. Yeah, let her rest. Josh laughed at something on his phone, completely unbothered. It was sickening. But that's how predators operate. They don't look like monsters. They look like regular people. People you know. People you trust. Later that day, Allison pulled Benjamin aside. We don't talk about this. Ever. Benjamin nodded. Obviously. And if she says anything? Allison's eyes narrowed. Who's going to believe her? Josh overheard and smirked. Exactly. It's our word against hers, and we've been here longer. They thought they were safe. They thought they could get away with it. But they didn't know Deborah. They didn't know how strong she really was. For 3 days, Deborah didn't speak. She went through the motions, attended class, came home, locked herself in her room. Her mother noticed something was wrong. Are you okay? I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. She was drowning. On the 4th day, her best friend Maya called her. You've been weird. What's going on? Deborah's throat tightened. She wanted to say it, needed to say it, but the words felt too heavy, too real. Deb, talk to me. And finally, she broke. Something happened. Maya went silent. What do you mean? Deborah's voice cracked. They hurt me. Who? Allison, Benjamin, Josh. Maya's breath hitched. Oh my God. Deborah, are you serious? I don't know what to do. You have to tell someone. You have to report this. I can't. No one will believe me. I believe you, Maya said firmly, and we're going to make sure they pay for what they did. Deborah told her aunt first, Aunt Clara, her mother's younger sister, the one person in the family she thought might understand. Clara's face went pale when she heard the story. Are you sure? Yes. This is serious, Deborah. If you're lying. I'm not lying. Clara hesitated. I believe you, but this is going to tear the family apart. I don't care, Deborah said. They need to be held accountable. But when Clara told Deborah's mother, everything exploded. That's impossible. Those men would never do something like that. Mom, I'm telling the truth. You must have misunderstood. Maybe you had a bad dream. A bad dream? Are you serious right now? Her mother's face hardened. I'm not accusing my own family based on some story. It's not a story, it happened. But her mother didn't want to hear it. Neither did some of the other relatives. They defended Allison, defended Benjamin, defended Josh, because it was easier to blame Deborah than to accept the truth. Maya convinced Deborah to go to the hospital. You need evidence. You need proof. At the hospital, a nurse practitioner specialized in sexual assault cases examined her. The woman was kind, gentle. "You're very brave for coming here," she said. Deborah didn't feel brave. She felt broken. But the examination confirmed what happened. There was physical evidence, bruising, trauma. The nurse documented everything, took photographs, collected samples. "This will help your case," she said. Deborah met with a counselor that same day, a woman named Dr. Ellis who worked with trauma survivors. "What you went through was not your fault," Dr. Ellis said. Deborah wanted to believe her, but the shame was suffocating. I keep thinking, if I had locked the door, if I hadn't been—" "Stop," Dr. Ellis interrupted gently. "There is nothing you could have done differently. They chose to do this, not you." Deborah filed a police report. 2 detectives were assigned to her case, Detective Morgan and Detective Hayes. They interviewed her for hours, asked detailed questions, listened carefully. Then they brought in Allison. He was calm, confident. "This is ridiculous. I would never hurt that girl." "Where were you on the night of the incident?" "At home, asleep." "Can anyone verify that?" He hesitated. I don't know. I was alone." They interviewed Benjamin next. His story didn't match Allison's. "I wasn't even home that night." "We have a witness who says you were." Benjamin's face went red. "Well, maybe I was. I don't remember." Josh cracked under pressure. "Look, I didn't do anything. It was mostly them. I was there, okay? But I didn't touch her." The lies were unraveling. The forensic evidence supported Deborah's account. DNA, fingerprints, timeline discrepancies, everything pointed to their guilt. The trial was brutal. Deborah had to sit in a room with the 3 men who had destroyed her sense of safety. She had to recount every detail, relive every moment. But she did it because she wanted justice. The defense tried to discredit her, tried to paint her as confused, emotional, unreliable. But the evidence was too strong. The medical reports, the police testimony, the inconsistencies in the men's stories. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty. All 3 of them. Allison was sentenced to 20 years, Benjamin 18, Josh 15. The judge looked at them with disgust. "You betrayed the trust of a young woman who saw you as family. You violated her in the most horrific way imaginable, and you will spend a significant portion of your lives paying for that." Deborah didn't heal overnight. Healing isn't linear. There were good days and bad days. Days where she felt strong and days where she couldn't get out of bed. But slowly, she started to rebuild. She continued therapy, joined a support group for survivors, graduated from college, started her career, found her voice again. She began speaking at events, sharing her story, encouraging other survivors to come forward. "Your voice matters," she would say. "Your truth matters, and you deserve to be believed." If Deborah's story touched you or opened your eyes, please like this video so more people can learn from this. And if you want more true crime awareness stories, I'll see you in the next video.